Now, European nations have urged President Donald Trump to deploy fighter jets to Romania as part of broader security deal.
President Trump says he's ordered the deployment of 2 U.S. nuclear submarines to the appropriate regions in response to threats from the former Russian president.
Whole new level of fury in one of the largest air attacks. A swarm of Russian missiles and drones rained down in cities across the nation.
August 18th, 2025. The sun had barely risen over the Baltic. The sea calm and blue, almost ordinary. But above that calm ocean, the world was about to change. An American F-35 Lightning jet was flying routine patrol in international airspace, its pilot alert but relaxed, running through checks he'd done 100 times before. To him, it was just another mission. To Moscow, it looked like something else entirely. From Russian command posts inside Kaliningrad, a tiny but heavily militarized strip of land wedged between Poland and Lithuania, radar operators tracked the jet. To their eyes, it wasn't just an American patrol, it was a Western threat creeping too close. In a tense command room, officers made a decision that would ripple far beyond the Baltic. They ordered a launch. The missile streaked into the sky with a thunderclap, an S-400 traveling at 14 times the speed of sound. In the cockpit, the pilot's radar warning screamed. He was being hunted. Adrenaline flooded his body. He yanked the stick hard left, released flares, tried every trick to evade. For nearly 30 seconds, the missile closed in, faster than thought, faster than hope. And then, detonation. The blast ripped through the F-35, tearing its wings apart, hurling the wreckage toward the sea. The pilot's last transmission echoed through NATO channels. Mayday, hit over Baltic, attempting ditch. But there was no ditch, just silence. And in that silence, the United States had just lost its first aircraft to Russia in direct combat since the Cold War. The news raced across the Atlantic in seconds. In Washington, alarms sounded. The Pentagon lit up with urgent calls. The president was woken and rushed to the situation room. Military chiefs, intelligence officers, advisors, all crowded around glowing screens showing the wreck site. And the question on every lip was simple. Was this war? Kaliningrad wasn't just any territory. It was Russia's fortress in Europe, a city bristling with missiles, tanks, and troops. A dagger pointing straight at NATO's heart. If Moscow could control the skies and seas around it, they could choke NATO supply lines to the Baltic states, Lithuania, Latvia, and Estonia, cutting them off in hours. That's why NATO forces patrolled the region daily. That's why one American jet had been flying there. And that's why its destruction could not be ignored. At 4:27 a.m. Washington time, the president gave the order, respond. Out at sea, the USS Gerald R. Ford strike group came alive. The carrier, 2 cruisers, 3 destroyers, more than 75 aircraft shifted into combat formation. Orders rippled across the decks. No one said the word war, but everyone felt it. The mission was clear: neutralize Kaliningrad's air defenses. Show Russia that firing on America carried a price. Hours later, the operation began. 68 suicide drones, buzzing into the sky like a mechanical swarm. Behind them came 25 fighter jets, F-22 Raptors, F-15EX Eagles, each loaded with precision munitions. And then, as the world held its breath, destroyers in the Baltic launched their payload, dozens of Tomahawk cruise missiles arcing low over the water, vanishing below radar. The horizon glowed with fire trails, the air trembled with engines. Knowing this moment might be remembered in history books as the day World War III began. Inside Kaliningrad, Russian operators scrambled. Radar screens lit up with ghost signals. The American drones were jamming everything, flooding systems with false targets. Panic spread as officers shouted, trying to separate real threats from decoys. But then the sky erupted. Russian S-400s fired back, trails of smoke slicing into the heavens. Drones burst apart in fiery blossoms, raining debris. The swarm was thinning, but still coming. American jets streaked through the chaos, dropping precision bombs that slammed into bunkers and radar domes. Fireballs lit up the city outskirts. For the first time, Kaliningrad's fortress was bleeding, but Russia was far from helpless. At 3:53 p.m., an American F-15EX was hit. The $87 million jet exploded in midair, both pilots gone in an instant. Radio silence followed. Then, one chilling call came through, Eagle down. The pilot ejected just before the jet plunged into the sea, later pulled out by a helicopter. It was a narrow escape, but it reminded everyone this wasn't a video game. This was real war. And still the battle escalated. At 3:58 p.m., the USS Thomas Hudner unleashed a storm. 20 Tomahawk missiles rose from its decks, skimmed the waves, and vanished from radar. In less than half an hour, dozens of Russian military sites were wiped off the map. Footage from circling drones captured the devastation, images that would be replayed on every news broadcast around the world within hours. Inside the Kremlin, meetings stretched into the night. Russian state TV went dark for several minutes, then returned with a chilling line: "Mother Russia will respond." NATO intelligence soon picked up something far more terrifying. Russian nuclear submarines in the Baltic had gone dark. They stopped sending routine signals, slipped into silence, undetectable. For Western military planners, this was the nightmare scenario. Submarines armed with nuclear missiles, hidden beneath the sea, waiting for orders no one wanted to give. In Washington, there was no celebration. No one cheered the successful strikes because everyone knew what was at stake. This wasn't just about one downed jet. It wasn't just about Kaliningrad. It was about whether the world was standing on the edge of a global war that could go nuclear. Analysts reminded leaders of history. In 1962, the Cuban Missile Crisis nearly pushed the world into Armageddon over missiles in Cuba. Today, it was happening again. For years, Russia and the West had accused each other of lies. For ordinary people in Europe, panic spread. NATO troops in Poland and Lithuania were placed on high alert, their tanks positioned near borders, their soldiers told to prepare for the unthinkable. And in Moscow, state propaganda told citizens something very different: that Russia had been attacked by America first, that Kaliningrad was under siege, that the motherland itself was in danger. Crowds gathered in Red Square, waving flags, chanting support for retaliation. By nightfall, the Baltic sky was still glowing with smoke. Kaliningrad's defenses were shattered but not destroyed. Russian subs lurked in silence. American carriers held their position, braced for another wave. And in capitals around the world, leaders stared at their phones. No one knew what tomorrow would bring. Would Russia back down, licking its wounds? Or would Moscow strike back harder, perhaps on NATO soil, perhaps even with weapons too terrible to imagine? The only certainty was this: a single missile fired at dawn had changed everything. It had turned routine patrols into battles, warnings into war. And as the world watched the Baltic burn, one question hung in the air, unanswered, heavy, dangerous. Was this the first day of World War III?